You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
Attention all security professionals. Want real-time IP intelligence at your fingertips? Sign up for Scout Insight's free trial today. Get immediate insights into threats, search any IP with no training required, and enjoy intuitive graphical results. Whether you need to identify compromised hosts or enrich Splunk queries, Scout Insight has you covered. Don't wait. Accelerate your threat response now. Visit teamcumry.com/cyberwire to start your free trial.
The future of space science missions in the United States are firmly set on the Moon and Mars, with Artemis leading the way for all missions by NASA. And you can almost be forgiven for forgetting that there's so much more in our solar system and beyond that we need to explore. Thank you, ESA, for grounding us, or should we say launching us, and announcing potential missions to asteroids and reminding us that JUICE is ready to be yeeted to Jupiter. More on that later.
T-minus 20 seconds to LOS T-dress. Go for deploy. Roger roll.
Today is July 16th, 2024. I'm Maria Ramses, and this is T-minus. ESA introduces the Ramses mission to Apophis. Space Systems Command rolls out CODA. KBR agrees to purchase LinQuest for $737 million. And our guest today is music composer Amanda Lee Falkenberg. Amanda will be sharing details about her Moon Symphony with us later in the show, so definitely stick around for that chat and to hear her beautiful music. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Let's dive into today's Intel briefing. And we're starting with some science mission updates now from the European Space Agency. First up is the news that ESA has started preparatory work for its next planetary defense mission called the Rapid Apophis Mission for Space Safety, or Ramses for short. For context, in 2029, the asteroid Apophis will safely pass near to Earth, a 32,000-kilometer pass-by. That is so close, it will be visible to the naked eye for many of us in Europe, Africa, and Asia. So mark your calendars for April 13th, 2029 for this once in a 5 to 10,000 year phenomenon. And ESA's space safety program announced their support for Ramses, which would study Apophis, not by slamming into it all Revenge of the Dinosaurs style as DART did, but by accompanying Apophis during its earthly flyby to see how it is affected by Earth's gravity as it goes along. Usually, if we want to study asteroids, we have to send our spacecraft way out into space, so it is awfully convenient when one comes to call like Apophis will, and ESA wants to take advantage of that. The Ramses mission will need to be launched by April 2028 to make sure it's ready for Apophis, and this mission is not a sure thing just yet. While the ESA Space Safety Program has given Ramses its blessing and initial prep work with existing resources has kicked off, ESA's Ministerial Council meeting in November 2025 has to formally support the mission in full for it to happen. So get those conversations going now. And mark your calendars for the flyby of JUICE. ESA's Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, also known as JUICE, will return to Earth in August. Flight controllers will be guiding the spacecraft first past the Moon and then past Earth itself, sometime between the 19th and 20th of August. This braking maneuver will take JUICE on a shortcut to Jupiter via Venus, because, of course, that makes sense. Thank you, orbital mechanics. It's the first ever double gravity assist maneuver, and it will change JUICE's speed and direction to alter its course through space. Yes, we are yeeting JUICE to Jupiter. And during the flyby, Earth will bend JUICE's trajectory through space, braking it and redirecting it on a course for a flyby of Venus in August 2025. From that moment on, the energy boost will begin, with juice being whizzed up by Venus and then twice by Earth, a trajectory that ESA is calling the space exploration equivalent of drinking 3 back-to-back espressos. What it all means is that juice is taking the scenic route, using the gravity of other planets and our moon to carefully adjust its trajectory through space to ensure that it arrives at Jupiter with the right speed and the right direction. Very, very cool. And yesterday it was rumored, and today it's confirmed that Italy's Leonardo is working with France's Thales and Airbus on a new collaborative space strategy. Leonardo's chief executive, Roberto Cingolani, confirmed, "We are strongly active in catalyzing large European alliances. Now we are working hard with Thales and Airbus on new strategic visions in space." The companies are said to be exploring their overlapping satellite activities. Any negotiations between Airbus and Thales Alenia Space would need the backing of the French and Italian governments. U.S. Space Systems Command has rolled out its new automated Consolidated Operational Data Archive system, also known as CODA. CODA is designed to provide a comprehensive data-driven picture of the space environment, enabling space operators to make informed decisions and react faster to potential threats. Space Delta II approved CODA's operational trial period, which will assess the system's ability to integrate data streams from the AFRL's Wide Area Search Telescope System for Wide Area Sky Surveys and the commercial company ExoAnalytics into a standardized workflow. The milestone was achieved through collaboration between Space System Command's Cross-Mission Data Branch, the National Space Defense Center, Space Delta II Squadrons, and L3 Harris. KBR has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire LinQuest Corporation. LinQuest is an engineering, data analytics, and digital integration company that develops and integrates technology solutions across space, air dominance, and connected battlespace missions. KBR has agreed to purchase LinQuest for $737 million, and KBR will use a combination of cash and existing debt capacity to fund the transaction, which is expected to close in Q3 or Q4 this year. Astrobotic has completed a summer-long test campaign for its VSAT optimized for lunar traverse, also known as VOLT. VOLT is a specialized lunar rover equipped with a vertical solar array designed to drive across the moon and harness solar energy. VOLT's mobile rover base underwent testing in the Simulated Lunar Operations Lab, known as SLOPE, at NASA's Glenn Research Center. The tests demonstrated the vehicle's stability, gimbal functionality, and sun tracking capabilities on an inclined bed of lunar regolith simulant. The first unveiling of the entire VOLT engineering model is planned for late October. And when you tether multiple power-generating volts together, you get a power grid, which Astrobotic is calling its, as you might imagine, Luna Grid. Astrobotic plans to deploy and demonstrate elements of its Luna Grid on the lunar surface no earlier than mid-2026, with the goal of the first operational Luna Grid by 2028 at the moon's south pole. Redwire has secured a follow-on order to develop and deliver additional rollout solar array wings known as ROSA for Thales Alenia Space's Space Inspire satellites. The follow-on order increases the total number of shipsets that Redwire will deliver based on its existing agreement with Thales Alenia Space, which was announced last month. Israel's Creation Space has launched the Expand Accelerator program to support 5 startups that are specifically developing technologies for sustainable exploration and settlement of the moon and Mars. The program creators say that they're focused on dual-use technologies and open to solutions that benefit both life on Earth and pave the way for our sustainable future in space. The APSTAR 6E, a satellite launched by China in January 2023, has officially come online. It is China's first all-electric propulsion telecommunications satellite, and it officially commenced operational services following an in-orbit and ground system technical review. All this according to its developers at the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation. The APSTAR 6E satellite is the first telecommunications satellite to achieve fully autonomous orbit transfer from low Earth orbit to geostationary orbit. And this last story sounds a little bit like a plotline from For All Mankind Season 2, or maybe it was 3. Italian scientists have reported that there's evidence for a sizable cave accessible from the deepest known pit on the moon. It is located at the Sea of Tranquility, just 250 miles from Apollo 11's landing site. This pit, like the more than 200 others discovered up there, was created by the collapse of a lava tube, and the findings suggest there could be hundreds of pits on the moon and thousands of lava tubes. Such places could serve as a natural shelter for astronauts, protecting them from cosmic rays and solar radiation, as well as from micrometeorite strikes. Yep, Hollywood's predicting the future once again. And that's it for our Intel briefing for today. Hey, do you think you have what it takes to run a spaceport? Easy peasy, right? Nah. Check out the job listing for the Head of Future Air and Space at Spaceport Cornwall in the selected reading section of our show notes. You'll also find links there to further reading on all the stories that we've mentioned throughout the show. Hey T-Minus crew, if you are just joining us, be sure to follow T-Minus Space Daily in your favorite podcast app. Also, if you could do us a favor, share the intel with your friends and coworkers. Here's a little challenge for you. By Friday, please show 3 friends or coworkers this podcast. A growing audience is the most important thing for us, and we would love your help as part of the T-Minus crew. If you find T-Minus useful, please share the show so other professionals like you can find it. Thank you so much, everybody. It means a lot to me and all of us here at T-Minus.
The IT world used to be simpler. You only had to secure and manage environments that you controlled. Then came new technologies and new ways to work. Now, employees, apps, and networks are everywhere. This means poor visibility, security gaps, and added risk. That's why Cloudflare created the first-ever connectivity cloud. Visit cloudflare.com to protect your business everywhere you do business.
Our guest today is musician and composer Amanda Lee Falkenberg. Amanda is on a global tour sharing her Moon Symphony. And I talked to Amanda while she's in Chicago preparing for the latest performance of her work, and I wanted to ask her more about what inspired her work.
The Moon Symphony is a very, very big passion project that's been in development for the last 7 years. And I stumbled across the concept during writing my piano concerto, which was called Crossing of the Crescent Moon. And that's how I found out about these extraordinary worlds, just through some research of ancient symbolisms of crescent moons. And then I stumbled across this website that said 10 of the weirdest moons of our solar system. And they
are very weird, to be fair.
They are absolutely fascinating. And I'm like, well, we need music for these moons. And I was like, it felt like a lightning bolt had gone through me. And I just could not wait to get started on this new project, which became the Moon Symphony. And that's where we are today.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know you are joining me from Chicago right now. So you are touring the world. I mean, you're doing all sorts of cool things right now with the Moon Symphony. Tell me what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so I am in Chicago. This is my first time here ever. It's a gorgeous spot of the world. The Chicago Symphony Orchestra is about to perform a suite version of the Moon Symphony. The Moon Symphony is a choral symphony, and Maren Alsop is performing what we call the symphonic, the orchestral version of that. So it's super exciting. I have my first rehearsal in a couple of weeks' time with them. So we have visuals that will be displayed on the lawns at the Ravinia Music Festival that will accompany this symphonic suite, the Moon Symphonic Suite. And I'm so happy to say that the scientists that I consulted with during the creative process are all flying out to be part of this milestone moment for the moons. Like I said, this has been a 7-year project in the making, and these scientists have been there from day one with me. I mean, as soon as I recognised very early on in the project that the science was going to be a huge part of the creative process, I call them, it's the Moon's symphonic family of scientists, So we've just been in this from day one, and here we are having the first live performance.
I wanted to ask first about that collaboration with the scientists. I'd love to hear more about, a 7-year process. I mean, a lot of it was you, obviously, but working with these scientists and that collaboration must have been fascinating. And then I want to hear about Lunar after. So we'll do one and then the other.
Well, I think it's worth just sort of pausing and saying there are so many levels of inspiration that's wrapped into this project, and so many tentacles, and one of which is the science element to it all. I didn't set out initially with the science element in mind. I'm a film composer. I know the power of music to storytell, and that's really, once I'd stumbled across these moons, I felt this emotional connection to their worlds, and I'm like, I know how to put this into a musical landscape so that more people could learn about them, because they were new concepts to me. They were new stories that I hadn't been exposed to, and I thought, well, being a teacher at heart, how can I, amplify their worlds? Well, music, and putting emotion to their stories as well. It can be a very powerful combination. And so that's how I set about. But during my research phase, I was stumbling across a lot of science, which I felt could not be ignored, and I was quite excited about it. I honestly felt like it was tapping me on the shoulder saying, hey, can we be part of this moons thing that you've got going on? I'm like, and then that's when I recognised I needed a choir to sing this science that I was discovering. So I set about the research, and this is where it kind of got interesting. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm finding lots of inconsistencies on this internet about, their properties and terrains. And I said, I need to consult with a science specialist, or I didn't know they were called planetary scientists, or a moon expert. That's what I said, a moon expert.
Moon experts, yes.
A moon expert. And so I started Googling this particular gentleman that I kept coming up across, and he looked like quite the character, dressed in Eskimo gear and talking about one of the moons I had decided to write about, Europa. I found him eventually. I found his email, and I said, turned to my husband, he's from NASA. And it was one of those emails that you kind of type your message. It's like the black hole emails, and you never know if it's going to reach them. And so I just sort of crafted this vision, and I hadn't even written music at that point. And I explained to him about the science and these moons and whether he'd be willing to talk with me. I told him the vision about a world premiere at Royal Albert Hall and Walt Disney Concert Hall. And he responded to me 7 days later and said, Amanda, your project sounds interesting. I'd be happy to Skype with you about your questions. And so we did. And then halfway through this Skype, which was phenomenal, he turned to me at one point and he said, I think the scientists would be really interested in your project, Amanda. And I said, really? He said, oh, yes.
It's so different from what I'm sure the emails they normally get. I'm sure that was a delight. He probably was like, is this real? I bet he was delighted. Yeah.
He has gone on record to say that when I went, I was invited to Caltech and NASA in 2018 to deliver the project to this room of scientists, which was just so dreamy. And before he introduced me to the scientists, he said something along the lines of, you can imagine being a planetary scientist, a leader of a multi-billion-dollar space mission. I get a lot of emails in my inbox, but this particular one was quite interesting to me. So yes, you are right with that.
I could totally see that. Just like, wow. But what a wonderful path that set you all on. When you were crafting all of this, gosh, I mean, how do you pull in the science while also building a worlds of emotion and how do you do all that? That is a lot to work together.
I think that's where I drew upon my wealth of experience, my experience as a film composer, because for me it's a very strategic process, which is, you get given a script. You have the story, and I will never go into my music story until I call it my incubation period, where I've basically absorbed all the characters and I've understood the plot and the emotional landscape. And that's exactly how I proceeded with this project. And I absolutely, so it was like a 3-point process. I would spend 2 to 3 months researching the science of these worlds. Then once I felt I'd penetrated and marinated as much information as I could, it would be a big announcement in the household to husband and cats. Right, I'm going into my studio to compose this stuff. And
it's Europa's turn.
Yes, exactly. It absolutely was like that. That was probably the hardest part, like just really tapping into the emotional integrity of these worlds and really making sure they had their own different personality and all that kind of stuff. That it's just always tricky. I mean, there was a time there with Titan, Moon Titan, where I had spent 7 days, 8 hours a day working on what I felt was a direction for Titan. And then by the 7th day, I turned to my husband and I said, no, it doesn't resonate with me. I'm scrapping everything. I'm starting from scratch. Because if I'm not resonating with it, how on earth can I expect others? So,
of course, yeah. That is the core of art right there, really, truly, yes.
Thank you, yes. I mean, I really, I'm very passionate about that. And I mean, and because actually, at the end of the day, you know, if you're not happy with it, why do you even bother, you know, investing that time and energy? I mean, you can't control how other people are going to resonate. Like that is out of your world, but you can try and govern as much as possible your emotional response to what you are crafting. And that's what I've always been really passionate about as an artist, as I'm sure you are as well. And so that's what happened. And then after I'd finished composing the music, and it really had to feel, I love John Williams' word, he says inevitable, with all these themes and melodic identifications that he crafts. And I've really latched onto that. I'm like, it felt inevitable. And once I knew that feeling, I would go, wow, we're done, time to move on to the next moon. But then the other point was the poetry, was the libretto. And that was also a huge joy because I would then take an MP3 of what I'd crafted and then go and sit with my science books and listen to the melodic material and go, okay, now it's time to save that part of the science and put that in there for that scene. And then but put the poetic spin on it, which I loved. It was such an enjoyable process. And I think there was only like 2 days that I thought, maybe I should hire a librettist and then I thought, no one's going to know this project as much as I do. There's not a lot of information about these worlds. And so I said to my husband, I think I can do this. I'm just going to try and do this. And it was such it was so enjoyable, honestly. I loved every aspect of the crafting of this. And you know what? I knew it wasn't going to last forever. Like 2 years later, I was done. So I just wanted to really, really indulge in the beauty of crafting the whole symphony.
And we'll be sharing my full chat with Amanda on our Deep Space episode this Saturday, so make sure to tune in and listen. We'll be right back.
Most of our listeners who deal with legacy privileged access management products know they tend to be expensive, difficult to deploy, and hard to use. Keeper Security is the answer. Keeper's Zero Trust solution delivers password, secrets, and connection management in one easy-to-use platform. It's fast to deploy, agentless, clientless, and has no implementation fees. Plus, Keeper is FedRAMP authorized. That's why we trust Keeper to prevent breaches and gain full control over privileged users. Visit keeper.io/cyberwire to schedule a quick demo. That's keeper.io/cyberwire. And thanks to Keeper Security for supporting our podcast.
Welcome back. And we're switching gears now from symphonies to hip-hop. Let's go back in time a sec. In the summer of 1997, my friends and I were glued to MTV watching this brand new music video with hip-hop legend Missy Elliott dancing in an inflated trash bag suit and a bedazzled bike helmet, all while filmed with a fisheye lens. The video and the song felt so cool and so alien. It was like a fever dream that summer, just iconic. So maybe that's why NASA decided to send it out into space, making it the first hip-hop song to go interplanetary. An inspirational message and lyrics from the song The Rain, Super Duper Fly by Missy Elliott were beamed to Venus via NASA's Deep Space Network on Friday.
Beep, beep, who got the keys to the Jeep? I'm driving to the big jet. Top down, loud sound.
NASA's Brittany Brown, Director, Digital and Technology Division, explained that both space exploration and Missy Elliott's art have been about pushing boundaries. Missy has a track record of infusing space-centric storytelling and futuristic visuals in her music videos, so the opportunity to collaborate on something out of this world is truly fitting. Called it. The song traveled about 158 million miles from Earth to Venus, transmitting at the speed of light, taking nearly 14 minutes to reach the planet. The transmission was made by the 112-foot-wide Deep Space Station 13, or DSS-13, radio dish antenna. So why did they send this to Venus? Well, because it's the artist's favorite planet. Missy Elliott said, "I chose Venus because it symbolizes strength, beauty, and empowerment, and I am so humbled to have the opportunity to share my art and my message with the universe." Coincidentally, the DSS-13 that transmitted the song is also nicknamed Venus. That is Super Duper Fly. That's it for T-Minus for July 16th, 2024, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. For additional resources from today's report, check out our show notes at space.n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K and podcasts like T-Minus are part of the daily routine of many of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. This episode was produced by Alice Carruth. Our associate producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karp. Simone Petrella is our president, Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I am your host, Maria Varmazis. Thank you for listening. We will see you tomorrow.
T-minus.
This September 18th and 19th in Denver, a tight community of leading experts is gathering to tackle the toughest cybersecurity challenges we face. It's happening at MWise, the unique conference built by practitioners for practitioners. Brought to you by Mandiant, now part of Google Cloud, MWise features one-to-one access with industry experts and fresh insights into the topics that matter most, right now, to frontline practitioners. Register early and save at mwise.io/cyberwire. That's mwise.io/cyberwire.